I joined Avalanche Studios about a year and a half ago, and they had filmed the majority of the Disappearance of Brandon Mull, I'd say, 4 years ago, and they sat on it for a while for reasons that I don't want to spoil for someone who hasn't seen it yet, but we sat on it for a while, and when I joined the team, we had time, and they thought I'd be a good fit to edit the project.
Now, when you came onto this project, I'm assuming you had a lot of background work in corporate videos, talking heads sort of deal. How was that a transition into making a documentary?
Well, there's a lot of similarities in that there's interviews and like B-roll, so it's a lot of that similar type of style. But documentary, you have to have a narrative. They generally have a narrative, and there's a lot of moving pieces to that, and making sure that everything makes sense, that things transition well. This was my first real documentary that I've edited. I've done similar things, but this was my very first documentary.
You got all the proxy files and all the original assets from the film 4 years ago. Once you had finished the initial cut, did you find that you needed more assets to continue that story, or how did that narrative work?
Yeah, so after I edited what we had 4 years ago, we realized there's not an ending. There's not a true ending yet. And so we had to go back to Brandon, and he was able to just clarify things, see where his book was at, and we were able to help shape the ending from there.
Excellent. Now, somebody who's interested in editing, and specifically whether it's for corporate or documentaries, what advice would you give to somebody who wants to get into that space?
You have to be very organized, and you have to have a lot of patience to be an editor. Editing is really fun, but it's also the thing that is so frustrating. But in my opinion, editing is filmmaking. I love the work that cameramen do, directors. I love every role that people do in film. But I think editing is the true art of filmmaking. But I think my biggest advice is you have to be very patient, and you have to not only be very detail oriented, but you have to learn to go back up to the surface and see the big picture of it all. Because it's so easy to get so distracted by the tiniest details, and you have to put things into perspective. But I'd say patience and organization is the biggest thing.
When the movie's all done and you have a chance to finally release it into the wild, sometimes those end up at film festivals like we are here at Desertscape today. How important is it for you as an editor to see these films play in front of a live audience?
Well, it's scary, but also really satisfying to see this play out. Like, it's a very different experience seeing it in a theater with a live audience, with people who are not connected to the project at all, versus the edit bay where I'm stuck in my office doing that. It's very satisfying, and I actually get to disconnect from it a little bit, and I get to enjoy the story more.